to turn it over to Denise, who is our community outreach chair, and she's going to kick things off, and then we're going to move from there. So, Denise, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Denise Atep, and I serve as the Community Outreach Chair for NAMIC Next for our St. Louis chapter. And I will serve as your host today for our Women's History Month virtual event. And it is my pleasure to introduce to everyone our esteemed moderator and panelist. And we'll start with our moderator, who is Kim Alexis. Kim Alexis, MASHRM. SCP, Strategic Partner for Leadership, Culture, and AMP, belonging with nearly 3 decades of experience in telecommunications industry. Kimberly is recognized expert in the intersection of organizational culture and human potential. As a 2025 SCTE Industry Excellence Award recipient and WICT Cheryl Green Fellow, she's dedicated to her career and to the belief that sustainable business success is driven by a culture where every individual has the opportunity to learn, grow, and truly belong. Kimberly specializes in architecting organizational environments and strategies that prioritize the individual, serving as the foundation for mindful and inclusive leadership. As a SHRM SCP or Senior Certified Professional, she integrates high level business strategy with human centric practices to unlock the full potential of the collective team. Her approach moves beyond traditional HR frameworks, ensuring that culture and belonging are treated as critical business skill sets that are taught, practiced, and embedded into the very fabric of the organization. She's a proud Louisiana native. Who dat? Go Saints. Kimberly holds a master's degree in leadership and continues to expand her expertise through dedicated continuous learning. She is committed to bridging the gap between corporate strategy and the employment experience to create lasting impact. Based in Parker, Colorado, she balances her professional work with DIY projects and time spent with her husband, Vincent, and their fur kiddo, if I'm saying this correctly, Kaya. She remains a steadfast leader with WICT, NAMIC, and SCTE, guided by the words of Arthur Ashe: start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Our panelists come to us from different sectors of leadership within the technology and communication space, beginning with Katina Kreitman, a senior technology and transformation leader with deep expertise in integration architecture, organizational alignment, and large-scale operational delivery. As a senior director with the Charter Communications, she leads enterprise-wide integration programs, driving cross-functional strategy and partnering with executive leadership to deliver high-impact transformation initiatives. Known for her expertise, systems thinking, financial acumen, and ability to bring clarity to ambiguity, Katina is consistently the steady hand that guides organizations through complex change. She also serves as president of NAMIC Denver, where she champions industry-wide equity, leadership development, and community advancement. In this role, she curates programming that elevates diverse talent, strengthens cross-market collaborations, and expands pathways for rising leaders in technology and media. Beyond her corporate leadership, Katina is the founder and CEO of Sacred After, a transformational wellness brand dedicated to guiding women through grief, growth, and rebirth. Through the guided journals, ritual practices, immersive content, and community centered offerings, she executive strategy with soul deep healing frameworks. Sacred After amplifies her mission to redefine what power, restoration, and self leadership look like for women rebuilding themselves after profound transitions. Across every space she leads, Katina is recognized for her authenticity, strategic brilliance, and her ability to build both systems and people with equal intention. She stands at the intersection of transformation, wellness, and operational excellence, shaping futures with clarity, compassion, and unapologetic vision. Next, we have Joy Civic, a Senior Director of Learning Solutions for Customer Operations at Charter Communications, bringing 25 years of experience in broadband and cable operations and call center leadership. She leads a team of 40 learning and development professionals supporting nearly 20,000 employees, driving engagement, leadership development, and scalable learning strategies. A longtime Women in Cable telecommunications member and Rising Leaders Scholarship recipient, Joy has championed mentoring circles, leadership programs, and talent development initiatives that strengthen emotional intelligence, resilience, and confidence in leaders across the organization. And to round out our panel, we have with us Deneen Prakash Stokes. She is a senior management of learning and development for customer operations at Charter Communications. She leads a team of content developers who help frontline employees do their jobs better. Their training connects directly with the company's goals. Deneen focuses on clear leadership presence, telling simple stories with data, and coaching at scale. Her work helps teams make better decisions, solve problems faster, and deliver a better experience for their customers. So, Kim and ladies, we are now in your hands.
There I go, unmute. Could not find a button to save my life. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. And thank you, Denise, for setting the stage. And today, y'all, as we are celebrating Women's History Month here with NAMIC St. Louis, I want to say that we aren't just looking back at the progress that we've made, but I want us to look forward at how we as women here are actively going to be shaping the future of leadership. So for today's panel, this is a very dynamic professional landscape, and I want you all to know that technical skills are going to be only half of the story that we have today. I've got with me here on this panel, Deneen, Kat, and Joy, each of whom really represents a wealth of experience across both operations and L&D. And we are going to explore today how these leaders are navigating uncertainty, how they're making those tough decisions that really inspire us to rise and lead with purpose. So I hope you are ready for today's conversation and for the insights that are going to be shared with us. Now, to get us started, I think we need to build a common foundation. So Deneen, I would love to start with you. From a learning and development perspective, could you level set for us and talk to us about emotional intelligence and how has that shaped your leadership style, especially during these hard times of organizational change?
Great, thank you. I just recently took a class on emotional intelligence using our Guild program, so I decided to get the book response, which is as basically is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions while effectively identifying and responding to the emotions of others. So specifically for me, I want to focus on how employees and leaders, they navigate complexities. We're always working with different business partners with different parts of the needs. We're also resolving conflict within our teams, collaborating with our OR partners, other departments, and we want to make sure that we're always keeping emotion in the back of our mind. We have to be really thoughtful when we look at tasks or projects or changes, and remember that there is emotion behind those types of interactions. Um, for me specifically, I try to focus on a tailored message based on the audience. Is it the business? Is it somebody on my team? Is it a leader? And then making sure that because I've tailored that message, um, we're able to have a really solid, open conversation. I think what that does is it really builds trust between myself and whoever I'm working with at the time. And it also helps us just get on the right page when it comes to a project or something that's come up. So, emotional intelligence on a, you know, personal level, you think of it as just feelings. But when you look at it in a professional environment, you really have to take into account who it is, what their role is, what are their needs, what are they trying to get out of the project. There's a lot more strategy involved when you look at it in a professional light.
Yeah. You mentioned being thoughtful and looking at the person behind the task, behind the situation, and really drawing out, um, pulling away, right? Taking that step back from the emotion that might be center and forefront to us as we're looking at and thinking about the decisions that are in mind. And this really thinks and brings to me, Joy, I'm going to switch over to you here to talk about how we utilize those emotions as we're thinking about, taking that step backwards and pulling away while we're making those tough decisions, time sensitive decisions. So how do you balance that emotional awareness with making those tough and really critical decisions in the space?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Tough decisions are not easy. That's
Mhm.
why they're called tough decisions. And they often demand courage, and not necessarily comfort. They're not comfortable. They're not comfortable for the leader. They're not comfortable for team members. So when making those decisions, it's really important for me to first reflect on how I am feeling about a decision that I'm making and how my emotions can impact that decision. I don't want to make an emotional decision. So it's really important for me to reflect on how I am feeling in that moment so I don't make a decision purely based on emotion.
Yeah.
Taking that time to reflect and then taking time to reflect on how others might feel about a decision. That really gives me an opportunity to think about any risks in the decision, any gaps as I'm thinking about the decision, but most importantly, it helps me prepare for how to communicate that decision, and what that communication needs to look like. And as I think about communication, once a decision is made, how important transparency is, when communicating that decision. I believe in direct and open, clearly explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what it means for the team.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means just being very direct and transparent.
Now, there's a lot right there, and I want to unpack all of it. All, I'm going to take us a little, maybe on a tangent here, but you talked a little bit about, um, understanding yourself first here in the space, and I want to stay with you here for a moment and really dig into that concept. A lot of us, myself included, spend a lot of time focusing on everyone else in the space. We spend a lot of time focusing on making sure that our teams are prepared, that, our households are doing the things that they need to be doing. So it's difficult, I think, for a lot of women in particular to separate and, to put themselves first in that type of a context. So I want to just hear a little bit more about maybe the practices that you use, how you take the time and the opportunity to balance and really bring forth the internal, like those mechanisms that you're using to really get centered and focus on your own awareness.
That's a great question. I think one of the practices that I have tried on and off over time, and maybe Kat can talk more about this, but is journaling.
Mm,
Really taking time to journal, especially when a tough decision is ahead. What those emotions are, what are the risks, what are the rewards, and really taking time to reflect on all of those things, as well as, how I'm feeling about it. Um,
yeah.
that is a practice that I've tried on and off. I don't know if any of you, anyone else on the panel has tried journaling.
Well, we'll move to Kat. Get you. You're going to be the foremost expert on what this looks like in journaling.
Look at
But
all that.
I, I want to though let's focus this conversation. Joy mentioned also the need for transparency,
Yeah.
and I think as we think about transparency, um, two things go together for me in that space, and that's trust and vulnerability
Mm.
as well as that transparent motion. So I'm going to kind of 2 or 3 part you here in this space. I'm going to stay with you for a minute, but first let's talk about this journaling. I know that you've got some expertise, especially as Denise did mention to us the sacred after space. So what's your thoughts on journaling and how we can even get into that space?
Yeah, I think what we're talking about, the underlining through line is the learning how to self-regulate when
Mm,
you're trying to make a tough decision, right? For me, that is about learning to read the room and naming the unspoken about what needs to be said, and then creating a space for stability and clarity. And so, how I use journaling is to ask me those poignant questions like, let me reflect back on how I could have handled the situation differently, or how I could have drove that conversation a little bit different in order to create vulnerability. Because in order to create vulnerability, people have to be safe, right? And so that means you have to set the framework and the room where things can be said without reprise. And
mm,
when people are feeling a little bit hesitant to express their ideas, that tells me, and it shows up in your body language, it shows up in how you deliver your what you're trying to say. And so when I use journaling is to help prompt me through some of those emotions, like, was I feeling tensed? Was I even present at the
yeah.
time of the conversation? I think, and journaling is a great tool to help us move through what we need to understand from a reflection point, but it also can serve as a tool to set up how I want to show up for that day. And so every morning, and I'm just going to just name my practice, I get up at the crack of dawn and I set time for myself, and I write down things that I want to do. I'm a list person. That's what I do. I write down what I'm trying to accomplish. I ask myself, well, how do I want to show up? And then I lead from there. Then I let it breathe. I don't try to untangle it or try to fix it. I just let it come out, and then I reflect maybe 2 or 3 days later. I mean, those are my practices, and maybe that can help some of you out there.
Yeah. And I think, even if you don't journal or journaling is not your thing, what's important is finding time to think.
Mm,
Hmm. Hmm.
So busy in our days, meeting after meeting, you have to build time for yourself to just think and reflect.
Yeah, totally agree. That has
I
to
love
be a common practice. Wherever you build it in your day, take the time.
take the time to think and to reflect before. And I love how you said this. How do I want to show up? And then lead from there.
Mm.
Y'all, I don't know if you heard those words. How do I want to show up? And then lead from there. So, Kat, those are very, very powerful words, I think, and powerful for each of us in our own space. You also said that in order for people to be vulnerable, they need to feel safe. And this leads me to my next question. It's really about building those trusting relationships. How do you cultivate those supportive and trusting relationships within your team?
So it kind of goes back to my values. So I value clarity, communication, and collaboration. I need to be clear on what I'm trying to communicate in order to build clarity for others. And most of the time when people are resisting any type of change, it's because they are not clear on what the mission is. And so I practice clarity with my teams. I practice clarity with my peers, any cohort that I'm trying to understand. I try to be as clear as possible. So when I engage to build a relationship with someone, we're starting from an even place, right? There's clarity there. And then building your relationships. Like the work that I do in charter, I can't get anything done if I don't have a solid foundation with the leaders or the individual contributors who are in the organization that's going to help us move the work into the customer's hands. And so I really value community in that space and just collaboration. Like I'm not the smartest person in the room. I surround myself with people who are just as smart as I am, and we're collaborating ideas, and we're having that ebb and flow. And so you have to have clarity, you have to have community, and you have to have collaboration to get anything done. And I think that builds relationships in those manners.
The 3 C's. Y'all catch these the gems that Kat's dropping on us here. Clarity.
I have C's. I'm a systems person, so that's what I do.
Cat in the C's. Clarity, communication, and collaboration. Clarity, making sure, and this really goes back, I think, to what Deneen was telling us as she opened her conversation, making sure that people understand the why behind any movement that we are doing. Communication, making sure that we are transparent in how we are, or what we are trying to accomplish, what we are really after in this space. But I also think that there's a measure of what Joy was bringing in here and making sure that we are at the center of that communication, and that we actually have belief in what we are doing and what we are trying to accomplish in the space. And then, of course, collaboration, right? Making sure that we are working with our organization, we're making sure that we're working with the team, because we are not, as much as we all wish to believe that we are super women in this space. I know there's a lot of songs that have set out there and told us that we are, but we are not a place of one. I don't think that we are creatures that are made to be a place of one. So we need to be in collaboration, in connectivity with others in order to get the things done that we need to get done. And it's okay. It's okay for us to lean in and lean on other people to help us get the work done that we need to get done. Do y'all believe that, or am I just saying that?
I agree, 100%.
Absolutely, yes. Ask those questions, get feedback. I'm the first one. I'll run over to Joy and say, hey, Joy, I'm really struggling here, or whomever it may be that can help me out. That's the best way to learn and get better.
Yes. So let's talk about learning and getting better. And thank you, Deneen, for this lovely pivot that you have given us here. Now, and this really is a conversation that's going to be about pivoting. I want to talk about the guidance that we can give to our emerging leaders, about setting meaningful goals, about finding that opportunity for learning and getting better, and really moving up in that professional mobility space. What are the things that we need to do in order to get better, in order to move forward in the space? Now, I want to open this up to the full panel. Deneen, you're on my screen, so I'm going to start with you here in this. What are some of those skills and things that you think are relevant here?
Wow, it's a loaded question. I've been with the company 21 years, started on the phone and have worked my way up into sales and training and facilitation, L&D space. So I feel like I've touched a lot of different areas and I've learned so much along the way. For me specifically, if it wasn't for organizations like NAMIC and WICT, which allowed me to show my skills outside of my role. So when I was in a call center, you're taking phone calls. It's really hard to stretch and say, hey, I'm really good at this and I'm really good at that. WICT and NAMIC allowed me to do that. So, I was a secretary, I did programming. It really showed those that I wanted to see me grow. And then they started trusting me with projects. And then next thing you know, a role opens up, and I've already showed them over here how well I've done. So let me look at how I can, expand that in my role. And that, I think, helped me get there. And then when I got in the role, I had to show them what I can do and take it up a notch. And I go back to communication, transparency, all that. That's how I interact with my team. But I'll tell you, I will ask questions all day long within my team. That's just how I'm going to continue to get better. But that is also how I so quickly moved into a leadership role. And because I am the newest senior manager, on our team, I'm still learning. But even in my role, when my VP and my director came to me and said, "Hey, we're transitioning teams and we want you to lead it," I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm like the newest leader here," but I worked hard. I did all the things that, they expected of me, and it was a successful transition.
I love that. Someone took a chance on you,
Yeah.
and they took a chance on, maybe not even that, that's probably not the right way to say that. They didn't take a chance on you because you had already displayed the qualities and the skills that were necessary in the space. What they did was acknowledge that you had done that, and they've given you an opportunity and a space to shine, and a space to really bring forth all of those skill sets that you were, already out there exhibiting in the spaces of NAMIC and in the spaces of WIC, but you were able to bring that consistently back into the workspace. So I love that story. Kat, I'm going to flip over a little bit to hear your thoughts. I'd love you to share some maybe directions on the skills that are necessary. Deneen talked about leveling up. What are some of those skills that may be necessary for us to get to that next level?
Yeah, so I'm gonna share something probably controversial that I want to challenge some of the mindset. I firmly believe you shouldn't be chasing titles, you should be chasing capacity as
Mm.
well as, embodying the opportunity. Because from every role that I have held in my career, I have had to embody doing the work before the title and all the things came with it. Because you as a leader, all the work that you were doing, the output of that is the title, it's the recognition, right? But for emergent leaders who are on the call who are listening to this, build your capabilities. That means build your communication skills, build the technical skill that is in the role today, become that person that you're trying to get to that next role. And then use your network, right? Look at others who have navigated the space like where you're trying to get to. It may not be the same path. It may twist and it may turn, but you've got to be willing to bring your head up, because you were hired to do a job. But in order to get to that next level, what got you to this job is not always going to get you to that next little level. You're going to have to build in some skill sets there in order to help you grow as an individual. And what I've had to learn is like, okay, I got these set of core skills that help me get the job. Now I got to start looking at, well, how do I communicate, across up to my leadership, below to my teams. You have to start building a muscle of communication and being clear, going back to that being clear part of the world, to understand, well, how do I move from here to there? And I think that's a given with anything that we do, not just in our careers, but in life in general. You learn by doing. You can get the certifications, but most of the time you're in the job, you're having the experiences, and you're learning and you're taking back and you're just leveraging them one day at a time. And trust me, before you know it, it's like, oh wow, I got here. And now you're looking at, well, what's the next opportunity? See the opportunity. Don't chase the title, in my mind.
Yeah.
I love this. Again with the C's. That listen,
I'm just
we think of now, right? So we've got get clear, get some clarity, understand that communication, roll through with the collaboration, and now we're going to chase the capacity.
Right.
Meaning, how capable are you of doing the work before we chase the title?
The title's the output of the work that you just did. And that's I had to change that mindset because I used to have that mindset that, I put my head down and it would come, right? But leadership is a culmination of your experiences and your capacity to take on more. And you need to really get clear about, are you ready to take on that next level of work? And what is it going to entail? And what level of, I hate this word, but sacrifice that you need to do in order to go to that next space? Because it's going to take some of your time.
Really, you were coming off of the mute, and I know this is a really great space here for you, because as Kat is telling us and talking to us about being ready for that next step, being ready for taking on more in your career, you've made some pivots and some changes and some turns that I think many would say would not have been like a traditional pathway, right? You've taken on that next level, you've taken on that more. Share for us some of those personal experiences that you did in order to broaden out your like chops here in the space.
Yeah. And I love what Kat said about not chasing a title. And I think another key piece of that is, setting goals that are tied to the value you want to create. You have to understand what your own motivation is. What are your values? What are your priorities? And what are your goals? And not just the title that you want to have. So as I reflect on a pivot that I made, and I'll also say, pivots don't happen. Pivots typically aren't planned.
Yeah.
Something may trigger the pivot or be the catalyst of a pivot, but a lot of times they're not planned. So having those goals set and understanding what your motivation and value is important when that spark is in front of you. And most of my career I've spent in learning and development, in learning delivery, supporting other people's growth, leading facilitation teams, and I really love that work. But I realized that if I wanted to influence the business in a deeper way, I really needed to understand what it felt like to run the business, to run the operation, not just support it. So when we were going through the merger between Time Warner Cable and Charter, my role was changing significantly. And that became my catalyst. I found myself in a place where this was a great opportunity to make a pivot and build those operational chops. And because I had that meaningful goal set, it was easy to make that change. And for 5 years, I spent running the operations in one of our contact centers before coming back to learning and development, and now bringing different perspective, fresh perspective, and a different mindset to the work that we do.
Yeah, I love this. I love the fact that you said, as you were opening your conversation, that pivots aren't planned. These are things, change is often not planned, but some of the best parts of what we can deliver come from those unplanned moments, come from those times and opportunities where we just have to believe in ourselves, believe in the work that we have already put out there, the way that we've already shown up in those spaces in order to have others believe in what we are capable of doing. Not chasing the title, but I will tell you, in my space, and I'm gonna let me leave this conversation open to everybody here to respond. That is hard. That is hard. I know I'll speak for me. I come from a generation where we were told this is what you need to aspire to do. This is who you need to aspire to be. And that always came with a name on it. It came with something that said status. It came with something that said, you've made it. How do I know that I've made it if I'm not chasing that title, if I'm not chasing the status, the number, maybe even that comes with something in that space? How do I step off of this cliff and start to believe in me, or start to really put me at the center of that conversation instead of putting that title or that status symbol or that dollar amount in the center of that conversation?
Oof. That one's deep.
Yeah, it's
That one's deep.
Yeah.
And I'll chime in here because, it takes you doing some inner work because like you said, we were trained to think that that's the thing to say that we've made it. And that goes back to a little bit of an identity conversation. And so for me, I've had to unpack who is Kat? Who is Katina? Right? And what am I capable of? And what are the things that I want to do? I had to challenge the fact that I'm a technology leader and an author and someone who, created a side business on the side, and a chapter leader who's running NAMIC. And I think they can all exist. And I think it's kind of, because at the end of the day, the titles will go away.
Right.
And then you're just left with who you are as a person and all the things that you contribute to the organization to help build value. And I think it goes back to, what are your values? What are you trying to do, opposed to the title or the thing that you are chasing, right? So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I could definitely say that too. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Joy.
No, go ahead.
For me specifically, I was involved with all these organizations and being seen and heard, and I ended up getting pregnant later in life and had to do a reboot. I remember specifically going to Spasha Feaster and said, Spasha, I don't, like, what am I going to do now? Like, I waited so long to have a child. And she told me, she said, you can't do it all. There's just no way. You have to pick what's most important for you. That doesn't mean you failed. That just means that you're making some adjustments. So yeah, I had to step back from WIC. I had to step back from NAMIC. As much as I love being able to help, I had to transition that into my L&D role as a leader and still make sure that I'm putting the time and energy into my family, my child, my husband, and that it's okay. And I've had to learn to be okay with just stepping back.
Yeah. Joy?
I was just I had a mentor, really challenge me one time, and she's like, you have to write down, you have to think about, what is your truth? What is your truth? What do you really want? What are your values? What are your priorities? What are you passionate about at work? What gets you most excited? And as you do that and you reflect on that, as I did, I realized I'm right where I want to be. I'm right where I need to be. I don't need another title because my truth is right in front of me. And if it's not, that's when you need to pivot.
Right. Absolutely.
Gems, people, gems. Know your truth. Write it down. We're going back to this journaling situation right here.
So
Write
true.
it down. Understand your truths. Know whom you are. Know what's important to you. Really take the time. This is about, again, that self-awareness. Take the time to reflect on, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to do? What brings you joy? What sparks that passion in you? And be okay with the answers and the things that we've taken the time to write, because that is your truth.
Yeah.
And
And
I think,
and
go
also
ahead.
building in those personal pieces like Deneen talked about, right?
Yeah.
Like that's part of my truth, Are you willing to relocate? What, what time do you need for activities outside of work? You have passions, like Kat outside of, her day job. You really have to think about all of those pieces.
Because
Well,
we're not singular dimensioned people, right? We have multiple dimensions, and we are well-rounded individuals, and so it's it would be unnatural for us to have that type of singular focus. We need to be able to bring in all of the things that really make us who we are. So
mhm,
Dean taking the opportunity to pull that step back and know, hey, you know what? My family is top priority for me in
mhm.
this moment. And maybe, 10, 15 years down the road, it won't be that, and I'll have more time to do X, Y, and Z. But for right now, this is my truth. This is where I'm leaning in.
Great. Know thyself.
Ooh, I hope y'all got goosebumps on that one because I just did. We have just a few more minutes left of today's panel. Denise, I am going to uh, kind of wind things over to you in order to close us out for today.
Okay, well, with that, I just want to say, wow. What an amazing and important conversation we've had today. And I want to thank each of you ladies for sharing your experiences, your insights, the gems, the C's, all the wonderful things that are going to help move us forward in our professional lives and as well in our personal lives. So thank you all for everything you shared with us today. And Kim, I want to thank you in particular for leading us in an exceptional and impactful conversation. So, what we want to do now is we want to offer an opportunity for anyone who has joined the call that is not a NAMIC member, the opportunity to come join us in the work that we are doing. As you see on the screen, we have a QR code that you can scan, and it will take you to where you can join in the work with us at NAMIC Next. Here locally, we're doing some really impactful and fun things that are going to move us forward as professionals. Just as early as tomorrow, we have our wind down. That is actually a ticketed event, and I believe we're at capacity, but there are other events, monthly webinars that we also have that you're able to join with us, learn and grow together. So please come and join us. The work is that important that we need all hands, as many hands as possible on deck. So we can continue on.
So I just want to jump in and say I want to thank everyone. This has been a wonderful session today. The panelists, you all offered some really good gems with where I am in my career. It's very,
Mhm.
very helpful. Kim, you did an amazing job with being able to articulate and tie in what the panelists were saying and sharing with us and how to apply it, to real life situations. We all come with a wealth of wisdom, a wealth of knowledge, and you ladies, you brought it today. And so, for all of our guests who joined us, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to spend some time with us today. And hopefully, you will use the tips that were provided today from our panelists to move your career forward or just identify, where you want to be in your life. And so, with that being said, we're going to close today's segment. I know, Denise, did you want to share the things that you had for our panelists?
We're going to share those in the email.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Well,
Mhm.
everyone, we're going to close it out for today. But before we do have 5 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? Just if you have a question, you can raise your hand. You can drop a comment in the chat. Does anyone have a question for the panelists or any aha moments or breakthroughs for you in listening to our panelists today? All right. All right. Well, with that being said, we'll give you back a few minutes in your day, and thank you all again for joining us today. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.